Welcome back. Second problem you're going to run into the most is printing takes too long. So, people complain if they have PDFs and they have like sketches or drawings or maybe some very high quality prints, and maybe there's 3 or 4 sketches, but there's a total of 100 pages. And so the rest of the pages will take forever to print because they're at super high DPI. So what you can do is check the high resolution setting and teach the user to print the high resolution gallery prints with the correct setting, but then for the rest, you're gonna lower the DPI. And I'll show you right now. Also, you're gonna take off quiet mode. In some cases, that'll increase the speed. And if you're doing double-sided printing, if you switch to single-sided printing, that'll also increase the speed. So let's check it out. First, you want to go to the control panel, printers, find the printer in question, right click on it, go to printing preferences, and then you're going to look for the resolution. If they're set to high quality, like 1200 DPI or 600 DPI, you can take it down a notch and try it and see if it's much faster. It will be. In this case, I would go all the way down to 300 DPI, and then if it was set on 2-sided printing, I would just take it off that. Of course, you have to check with the user, test, and make sure that they're happy. So that's the way to speed it up. Now let's go back. All right, the second thing you can do is you can try a different driver, like the PCL is best for faster office printing, and then the PostScript is better for graphic intensive applications. And the final thing you can do to increase the speed would be to add more memory. So most printers have a slot you can add like RAM, and it will make it much faster. So you can check the manual for that. You can search it on the internet, or you can even call the manufacturer and ask them. So those are the 3 things you're going to do to increase the speed when the printing is taking too long. Let's move on to the number 3. The really common problems, paper jams. So, for me, paper jams have always been pretty easy, but basically what you want to do is follow the user guide or control panel instructions on the printer itself. So you're going to start by just inspecting the paper path, and you're going to try to remove any jam material, but you have to be really careful not to pull too hard because you don't want to rip it and have any pieces of paper stuck inside, or to like bend any of the plastics. So you just got to make sure you're really sensitive with that. And if it's caught in between rollers, there's in some cases you have the ability to release the pressure. So you just have to check with the manual on that. Number 2, remove the tray and realign the paper. So sometimes the paper's misaligned in the tray itself. So you take the tray out, make sure you square it up, put it back in, and that should resolve the issue. And the other thing is just to check to make sure you have the right type of paper. If the paper's too thin or too thick, or even if it's wet, in some cases too much moisture, you're going to have these paper jams. Okay, and you can check with the manufacturer to see if that's the correct paper. Moving on to number 4, really bad looking prints. So there's a lot of solutions for really bad looking prints because it could be happening for a number of different reasons. In most cases, you're going to check your printer driver to make sure you have the correct paper and media selected. So like for example, if you have the wrong media selected and it's coming out crazy, or double check that the paper is loaded in the tray matches the type selected by the printer driver. It's kind of the same thing. Number 3, in some laser printers, the fuser has an adjustment for the paper type. So if your fuser can be adjusted manually, check to see that it's set properly, but be really careful because they get super hot. So you have to make sure it's cool. Number 4, check out your toner cartridges, imaging units, and the fuser for damage. These components can vary by model and manufacturer, so it's best to refer to the user manual. Number 5, if you have smudge marks, you can print several blank sheets of paper and they'll fade away. Also, you can clean out the interior if there's toner that's kind of spilled out. And number 6, you can use the alignment. This is only for inkjets, and that usually you're not going to find in a business setting, but sometimes you will. Use the alignment function to, every time you install an inkjet toner, you're going to use the alignment function to make sure that you have a really good looking print. Moving on to the next and final, number 5. So you're having issues with the printer, it's becoming unreliable, and they're calling you out too much. The users are getting frustrated. Once you start getting into that situation, or even if the old printer is no longer supported by the new operating system or the new update, then you're going to want to have a talk with the person in charge and say, hey, this printer is no longer reliable and it's causing a lot of issues for your users, so we need to replace it. And if there's anything, the final note I have on this whole printing, if there's anything you can't figure out on your own by Googling or reading the manual, always feel free to call the manufacturer. It's free most of the time, and they'll know exactly how to solve the problem since they've run into it a bunch of times. All right, guys, good job. I'm going to leave you with this video.
I'm down for no reason. Once I get down, I'll be no